The new Stochastic Hall of Fame program is bigger and so much better than ever before. Because the days of being able to win only one time a year, well, they're gone. Now you can win year-round just by rocking the Stochastic avatar wherever it is you play. And we've added way more prizes, and better ones too, just to make all of your wins that much sweeter. Even a custom Stochastic Hall of Fame ring and display case to commemorate your most memorable takedowns. And if you're looking for a fresh look on DraftKings or FanDuel, we've created a brand new selection of Stochastic avatars to choose from. And all you have to do to get involved is finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, no matter the entry fee, and tweet us your wins at Stochastic Hall of Fame. And we're back for another edition of the new and improved Stochastic Hall of Fame. Remember, all you got to do to get involved, download one of the avatars, the beautiful, beautiful new avatars at stochastic.com/HOF. Use them wherever it is you play. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, no matter the entry fee. And tweet us your wins at Stochastic HOF. Remember, we got tiers now: bronze, silver, gold. So every time you play and every time you win, you get something better. So why would you not want to do this? Let's dive into it. First up, Sean Geezy. Are you shocked? Our first gold tier member of the 2023 year is Sean Geezy, and we just started this 2 weeks ago, but nobody's surprised. This guy just wins. Took down the jab stack on DraftKings tonight. Shout out to the Stochastic team. As always, $5,300 win for Sean Geezy. One of the Hall of Fame OGs who just keeps piling up the wins. And how about Alex M? Thanks you guys to the GOATs, $10,000 in the PGA streets, $10K for Alex M, another huge win. And Snays, how about Sean from Chicago? Huge shout out to all the Stochastic team. Took down my first tournament in NBA and finally made the Hall of Fame. What a Sunday. Love to see it, brother. And our old pal Emac, thanks to Stochastic Sims and of course Stochastic legend Sean Geezy, taking the afternoon MLB slate off for a nap, $1,400 for Emac. Stephen Lee out here helping me claw back my losses from Belmont, second place in the Mini-Max. And Chris Logan, Saturday's Xfinity. This lineup would have tied first in the main contest. Still a nice win for $1. Yeah, $175, hell of an ROI, brother. And how about Eagle Nation 3? Huge shout out to Stochastic MLB DFS Sims. The Sims are working. Took down first in last night's MLB action, $150 for Eagle Nation 3. Timothy Holmes, $250 for Weasel 8. Rocking the new, beautiful new Stochastic avatar, might I add. Stochastic's getting it done. Another first. Congrats, Timothy. James Roach, only one of these counts towards my free month, but wanted to show the other just for everyone to see that with Stochastic, it's too easy. $1,000, third place in the 25K showdown zone, and first place in the 5K mini-max. And David A. Russell, the second. I binked another one. Thank you, Fantasy Tips, Matt and Laffy, for the early slate analysis. $600, second place in the solo shot for David. And Dave Oliver, Elway's Army. Dude's creeping on Sean Geezy. I tell you that much. He's creeping because the wins are piling in. You know, Jordan's with me now. He saw it. We got another 10K one rolling in from Dave Oliver for next week's Hall of Fame. But 5,300, 4,600, 5,300, 3,500. Let's go. You guys are the best. Thank you for all your help. The Sims and analysis are unreal. Elway's Army, keeping them piled up. And Jason Barstead, thanks, fellas. Using the tools, I had a monster NBA season, and in 2 weeks playing MLB, I've taken down a 20 max night slate and had 3 top 5s in the main slates. Best team in the industry. Chris Williams. We know you, Chris. It's your favorite Apple guy. Went on YouTube shows, super chatted to hit the like button and bring yourself some good karma. Then I did 2 lineups, split first in the $15 night slate, been on a heater in MLB and NBA thanks to your great shows. $3,500 for the Apple guy. And BB Dub 27, PGA lineup generator comes through. Nice solo win in the quarter, 10K on FanDuel. Thanks to Stochastic for the awesome tools. Lastly, our boy John B. As much as I love sharing, glad I didn't have to do it here. Thanks for the best tools in the biz. That'll do it for this week. Go to stochastic.com/HOF. Download one of these beautiful new avatars. Use it wherever it is you play. And when you bink, hit us up at Stochastic HOF on the Twitters. We'll see you back here next time.
You gonna count us down or not? There we go.
Yeah, what are we doing here? Children.
You praised him too quickly. What is happening, everybody? It is time for another MLB Live Before Lock. We're sponsored by Sleeper here today. They got a free square. We'll talk about that in a second here. But most importantly, we got the baseball slate to break down for you guys. It's a big one. There's a lot of games. We got some weather situations to talk about that could potentially be problematic. All we're going to ask for you guys is to like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you got any questions for us in your Stochastic sub, hit me up in the Discord channel. I'll be answering any questions you guys have over the course of the show here. Eric, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very lovely. I'm excited to talk through some baseball here. It was a mediocre slate yesterday. It was about break even. Very much looking forward to this one. There's 2 or 3 spots that I think are a little bit underutilized that I'm pretty excited about. And those feelings, well, sometimes it's like, oh, well, yeah, guaranteed about to flop. Like, I feel like every time I felt good about an MLB slate for the last week or two, it's gone pretty well. So this one, one stack in particular, 2 pitchers in particular that I think we can get some nice leverage on. And I really like the recaps you've been doing over on X as well. Lance Lynn, pitcher you needed yesterday, being on both sides of that one, that was kind of a salvage for me, was having either one of Atlanta or Lance Lynn go completely ballistic. Played Atlanta in single entry, played Lance Lynn over the field in tournaments. Ended up being a big part of it. But if you guys aren't checking out those recaps on a day-to-day basis, a quick way to kind of get your brain flowing in the morning, give Greg some likes on those.
Yeah, so if you guys are a Stochastic sub, I think one of the most underutilized tools we have, which I understand why, because it's not, for a lot of people, and even myself included sometimes, it's not as fun to use the post-contest sims because the slate's already over. Maybe you did well, and you're like, I already did well. Maybe you did poorly. Like, I don't want to revisit the slate. But I, especially for baseball, have made a habit of looking at the post-contest sims every single day to see, hey, where did I go right? Where did I go wrong? What could I have done differently? And I think that has made me better at MLB DFS, especially over the course of the season. Landscape always changing with the introduction of sims and that being something that's more widespread now. So if you are a member of the site, I do recommend you check out the post-contest sims to see how your lineups are actually simming out, to see what it is you can improve on your process. But because I was looking at it all the time, I was like, hey, I might as well, because it's not that difficult to do. I just post on Twitter. Here are the stacks that end up being the best. Here are the ones that were the worst. Here are the top pitchers. Here are the worst pitchers. And I just kind of thought it's fun for people to look at. So I've been posting that every morning for 2 days in a row.
2 days. Well, I'm just giving you some love on it because I do notice them. I just want you to know, Greg, that I see you. I see you.
There we go. I see you too. I see you too. Chat, let's get to it. Let's talk about some baseball today. And, you know, beginning with these pitching options we have on the slate, there is a crazy amount of pronounced chalk considering the size of the slate. We've got, 12 games today. Hunter Brown, I'm just going to lead with this here. We won't talk about him first, but just want to make you guys aware of this. Hunter Brown is projected for 52% ownership today. This is probably the highest owned pitcher I could ever remember on a slate of this size. Fair to say?
Yep, tweeted it out last night. Was pretty positive he was going to be over 50% owned. I'd be shocked if he wasn't like 65% owned in single entry. What a fun day. Way to go, DraftKings. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Obi-Wan asked me, where's the hat? I have to buy a new one. You know, this is an expensive hobby, buying new hats for shows all the time. But don't worry, we'll cook something up for the future. But I also have to know when to take my foot off the gas pedal on some of these bits a little bit. So don't worry, there'll be other things coming.
You love that hat
in the future here.
It's no bid. You love that hat.
Let's see. We got a couple of questions that are coming in here. We've got right off the bat. Before we talk about the pitchers, I want to address some of the weather in these games because there are some spots that have a chance of rain. Is there anything that you were either removing from your player pool or maybe lowering exposure to because of the chance of rain?
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh and Cincinnati isn't exactly safe. I've been eyeing that one all day, mainly because Mitch Keller is somebody that I really wanted to short at 6.5 strikeouts over on a different site where you can take a look at. I feel as though there's a number of those kind of plays where, you know, the strikeout, there's multiple things that can go for you. Cincinnati against righties, they strike out a lot, 3rd highest clip, but Mitch Keller is going to have 4 righties to deal with there, and pretty much all of them don't strike out, and then he doesn't strike out the righties. So with a Jonathan India, Spencer Steer, Espinal, and Fairchild, all of them, and then Stevenson as well. So 5 righties in that lineup. His strikeout numbers look a lot worse. Wind is blowing out. It's 88 degrees, so runs can get put up. And then also the weather, you could have an in-game delay. So lots of reasons that I like that under for Mitch Keller. St. Louis, I don't know what to make of it. I think that's the other major one. LA and Chicago have pop-ups. Again, pop-ups, there's nothing you can do about stuff like that. We talk about it with Atlanta a lot, where those will just come up from time to time and something will be near the ballpark, and hey, that's baseball. That's kind of how it's going to work. But St. Louis is definitely the one that I think I'm the second most worried about. Maybe number 1A, 1B with Cincinnati. I think it's going to be fine. I think it'll be a go. But delay in the middle of a game wouldn't be completely unlikely. And then the Dodgers in Chicago, they do have some stuff that's showing up there, but it looks as though they're going to be just fine in the evening window.
And let's see what else. By the way, for me, as of now, I'm not changing anything due to weather. I think everything should be okay, should be good to go. No kind of alterations that I'm making. It is something that's worth keeping an eye on for a couple of spots. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, something to keep an eye on. Dodgers, White Sox, something to keep an eye on. Braves, Cardinals, something to keep an eye on. But as of right now, I'm just playing as if everything is going to be totally good to go by the start of the slate. But still, not going to say it's totally risk-free, but I'm good with it for now. Shout out to Chris Williams, who gifted out his usual YouTube memberships there. So shout out to Chris, who gifted the 5 YouTube memberships there. Appreciate you, Chris. A couple questions from our Discord, actually 3 that have come in now. First, hey, I'm Drew, wants to know the cash game plays for the day. All right, so this is going to be really simple at pitcher. Yep. At pitcher for cash games, the 2 Hunters, Hunter Green, Hunter Brown. They're both very popular, and there's not really all that much pitcher ownership behind these 2.
Yep, that's what you're doing.
And then if we're talking about GPPs, you are loading up on as many of the Dodgers bats against Chris Flexen in a park upgrade against the Chicago White Sox that you can.
Yes, you are.
There you go. I think that's how you construct your cash game lineups
well
today.
Done.
It's the way to
well
go. Hey,
done,
Andrew.
Sir.
Interesting question from Einsteinium. He is asking us, is there any data on whether a pitcher performs better or worse when facing the same team in back-to-back starts? He says the reason he asks is he's not really a big fan of Hunter Green on the slate. The answer to your question is yes. There was an article written on Fangraphs from a few years ago. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I do know that it's an article that I'll try to dig up on Fangraphs. And
it's not as pronounced as like the 3rd time through a rotation on the same day, but there's definitely evidence that it is downgrading to a pitcher. I remember seeing that a long time ago too. It might have been a year or 2 ago. I'm trying to think of when I remember that, but either way, it's not as pronounced as you would think. Some people overblow it, but it is definitely an advantage towards the hitter relative to their actual production, because everything is technically going towards the pitcher. When you think about things, it's like, oh, does he do well or does he not? Like a hitter hits 300, they're in the Baseball Hall of Fame, and that's failing 70% of the time. But Mitch Keller and Hunter Green, I think both of them just fine here in this spot. Both these teams are going to strike out decent amount. Cincinnati more so against the righties there. Pittsburgh, it's not as much the strikeouts as it is just everything else that comes with it. 80 WRC plus, a lot worse. I guess not that much worse. 85 WRC plus for Cincy, but 24.7% K rate, Pittsburgh in the aggregate. They've been burying some of their other strikeout bats of late. We have Michael Taylor all the way at the 9 hole like he normally is, but then Triolo and who is the other guy that isn't in the lineup? Jack Sawinski. So wild to see him not even in it with a 29.5% K rate.
So I found the article from Fangraphs. I posted it in our Discord channel, replied to Einsteinium with it. Here's the crux of the article. Yes, it does impact pitchers. Now, does it massively impact pitchers? No, not really. It has a little bit of an impact, though. It is a median increase of 0.45 runs scored per 9 innings. So not even against the pitcher, but per 9 innings. And then as far as other stuff, strikeout rate, walk rate, that all stays about the same, but just a little bit of an increase in hits allowed against pitchers when they're being seen in back-to-back starts. So here's the way that it's also, this is the way my lineup's already showing up in the Sims anyway, is there's clearly a lot of strikeout upside for Hunter Green, especially when you just consider that based on the research, it is no impact on strikeout rate. And we know that he is a massive, massive high ceiling for strikeouts, but considering it does increase the amount of hits that teams get against a pitcher when they're seeing them back-to-back starts, I also think you make a pretty good case for the Pittsburgh Pirates being a leverage stack. So the way that I'm approaching this slate is Hunter Green is a pitcher that I'm going to have exposure to. Not all that much different from the field, but I do really like the Pittsburgh Pirates as a leverage stack.
As do I.
So a very good question, Einsteinium. I think that's a good talking point for that. Just to summarize, doesn't change the upside of Hunter Green, lowers his floor a little bit, and then also hires the ceiling for the Pittsburgh Pirates as a stack. And then we got a question from Melissa. Melissa says, I'm going to send you a real cowboy hat this fall from the Texas State Fair. Hat sizes, please. Whatever.
Extra small
because I'm an
because
idiot with a small brain. So small hat size.
Yeah, perfectly said.
Yeah. I don't know what sizes do they do hats in. I'll have to do. Melissa, I appreciate it very much. You do not have to do this. Do not feel obligated in any way. I'll look up cowboy hat sizes and try to figure out which one is best for me. Thank you if you actually do end up going to send that, though. Let's talk about pitchers now, Eric, and in a little bit more in-depth way on the slate. And despite all the games we have, there are no pitchers that are 10K or more expensive on DraftKings. We do have a handful of pitchers who are 9K plus, though. Joe Ryan is 15% owned. He's the only pitcher that's 9K or more expensive that's getting any kind of ownership. Then you got Seth Lugo, Ronaldo Lopez, Garrett Cole, Mitch Keller, all 5% owned or less. Are you paying up for pitching at all today, Eric?
Not really. I mean, when you get Hunter Brown at 8K, it's going to make everybody else look really, really, really terrible up top here. I don't mind a couple of shots on anybody up in this range. I think my favorite would generally be Garrett Cole, but he only had 62 pitches in his first outing, so I don't think he's going to be long for this game. And it's really hard at 9,200 to talk myself into facing a Mets team that doesn't strike out a ton. I think it's fine for the complexion of the ball game. I think the Yankees, -1.5 got a little bit of line movement going their direction, but nothing substantial whatsoever. I mean, Garrett Cole is right from the get-go looking pretty good to me. Looked good at AAA in those last couple starts. Looked all right in that first start, 4 innings, 2 earned against Baltimore. Baltimore at home there. Definitely a team that can get after any righty whatsoever. So a decent enough start for him there, but can't really do it on this slate. I guess I wanted to ask about Mitch Keller at 9K. We covered Hunter Green on the one side of things. I do think Mitch Keller sitting at like 2.8% ownership at 9K against Cincinnati. I talked about being on the under of his strikeouts, and yet from a DFS perspective, Cincinnati with a 26.1% K rate, he does get the 5 righties, which is a little bit annoying because I thought I was going to play a little bit more Mitch Keller. Thought there were a couple of complexions of the lineup where they would go to 4 or to 3 righties, but his strikeout rate is so much better against lefties, sitting north of 32% on the season. I want to play some. It's super, super risky. It's a great hitting environment and a great hitting ballpark, but we're looking for upside. And I think I think Mitch Keller at low ownership can do that.
So you're asking me about Mitch Keller. I'm not paying up for pitching today. I mean, the most expensive I'm generally getting at pitching is the $8,600 price point on Hunter Green. We'll be talking about, I mean, we've kind of already covered Hunter Green.
Yep.
But as far as the spend ups go, I've got a couple of lineups with Joe Ryan, but I'm underweight to the field on him in that 15% projected ownership. I'm just not spending up for the pitching options on this slate. So Mitch Keller, I don't have like a real issue with him. One thing that is kind of nice if you're rostering him is the Cincinnati Reds are projected for some ownership, but it's not crazy. There's only one team on the slate that's projected for north of 10% ownership. That's the Los Angeles Dodgers at 11.5%. So that's not enough ownership to the Reds to give me any kind of real leverage, even if they are one of the more popular teams on the slate. But no, Mitch Keller isn't somebody I'm really getting to, Eric.
Okay, just wanted to ask you about him because it just feels low at like 2-3% against Cincinnati there, just for what his upside could be there. And at 9K, he started to pitch a little bit better. Looks as though nothing's really changed as far as the mix goes. He's been efficient all year, 3.11 ERA, 1.20 WHIP, but specifically gone how many games in a row now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in a row with 6+ innings, with only one of those giving up more than 3 earned. So like he's on a really, really nice run. Did just face this Cincinnati team, only 83 pitches there in 7 innings, only 2 hits up against them there. So I don't know. I keep looking at it. I keep rerunning stuff and end up with like 12, 15% of him. I'm not sure what my inputs are here at the moment, but the Sims tool, I'm letting it do its thing with the projections, and that is what I am getting.
And we've got a question here, which is relevant to the spend up pitchers. We got a super chat here from Francisco Rubio. He's asking us, how's Lopez leverage looking? Seems intriguing. So of the pay up pitchers, Lopez is the one I have the second most exposure to, but that doesn't mean all that much. That means I have been 2.7% of my 150 lineups. The question you had asked was about leverage. There's no real leverage on Ronaldo Lopez. I know that, like, if you look at him and you're like, hey, only 5% owned, you can make a case for being overweight to, you know, most talented pitchers or hitters that are only 5% owned. But when you consider on the other side of the game, the ownership on the St. Louis Cardinals is 1%. It's just not really what I consider leverage. So Ronaldo Lopez, he's in a couple of lineups for me, but no, not somebody I'm really playing. For yourself, Eric?
Nope, not really. And I like his stuff. I've been playing him quite a bit this season. It's hard in St. Louis. I think I have enough St. Louis bats. I really don't have much Lopez. I would rather play Seth Lugo if I'm trying to make that happen, because it's Miami on the other side. Not that St. Louis has been some world beaters here, but a couple of lefties that have started to come on there for them. Burleson, Donovan, Nolan Gorman now 7-hole. Is this the furthest down in the order Nolan Arenado's been in his entire career, 6-hole?
It's a good question. I don't know. I'll ask ChatGPT. Maybe
normally we get like an underdog tweet that comes along with it and lets us know that like so-and-so has been benched or sent, like the Corbin Carroll one. I remember getting that tweet where he was in the 8-hole for the first time, but I didn't see that one come through today. I thought, man, I can't remember the last time I saw Nolan Arenado in the 6-hole, if ever.
Let's see. I asked ChatGPT if it's able to give me an answer, then I'll let you know. It's doing, oh, here we go. The furthest down the batting order that Nolan Arenado has ever hit in his MLB career is 7th. Okay,
so he has been below it. Probably immediately getting called up with Colorado back in the day, and immediately started hitting and was in all-world Gold Glove third baseman immediately. So good times to be Nolan Arenado.
Sublime 7887 in the chat asks, what are our thoughts on the St. Louis Atlanta weather? There is a little bit of risk there, but it's not risky enough to where I'm taking it out of my player pool. It's also a game I just don't get that very much. I just don't get very much exposure to that in general.
Yep, I'm with you.
I mean, the pitchers I just mentioned before, I have 2.7% of Ronaldo Lopez. I have, for stacks in that game, I have 1% of the Braves, 2% of the Cardinals. And that's just what I get without making any kind of adjustments in the sim. So I'm cool with just playing that.
Yeah, I have more Cardinals than I do Braves for sure.
Let's talk about the other pitchers on the slate. I assume nothing else to add about the pay up, guys?
Nothing to add. Nope.
Okay, so let's talk about the 8K range, which is really where the field is playing anybody a pitcher. It's crazy. We have a 12-game slate, and the pitcher pool is so condensed today. So here's what we have in the 8K range. Hunter Brown is 52% owned. Hunter Green is 33% owned. Mackenzie Gore is 14% owned. Tyler Anderson is 10% owned. Then you got Brandon Pfaadt is $7,800, so a little bit cheaper than this range. But I guess we might as well include him for the sake of conversation. He is 19% owned. Those are really all your most popular pitchers on the slate, and then some ownership going to Joe Ryan at the top as well. We have Hunter Brown in this price range, Eric. Just an astronomical amount of ownership going to him considering the size of the slate. Do you think it's warranted?
Yes.
That's
I don't even know what to add.
The ownership, I was like, boy, I'm probably going to be getting the Colorado stacks again today. Didn't end up being the case. Went through everything, ran the contest generator, run the sims, check my lineups out, and it is telling me that Hunter Brown is in fact underowned at 52%. That he should be in more of my lineups than that. You guys could see it on the screen here too. Jordan running the sims with what we'll call the factory settings, no changes being made to it. showed up in 72% of those lineups. I think that Hunter Brown is chalk. I understand it's scary because he's been crazy up and down this year, but this is not the most loaded pitching slate of all time, even though there's 12 games. He's got a great matchup against the Rockies. And for all the struggles of Hunter Brown this year, he generates a lot of strikeouts. He's got a great matchup. He's $8,000. His strikeout prop, which I also think I saw you tweet about earlier, it's 7.5 strikeouts for Hunter Brown. It's very hard to get away from him.
I stayed up last night to specifically try to get money in on Hunter Brown at the open because I thought it was going to open 6.5 and I was just going to jam it. It opened at 7.5 with like, what is it? It's juiced to the over. I mean, this is just absurd. You don't see many K props like this, let alone K props for guys who are 8K facing Colorado on the road. Like, Colorado on the road is just notorious for this. And then you get Doyle, Tavar, McMahon, all three of the high strikeout guys that you have on a day in, day out basis for Colorado. The back half of the lineup, Nolan Jones, 5-hole. You get Togley at 36.8% K rate. Sam Hilliard ends up in at 42.3% K rate. Pretty much every single iteration of this lineup, I was going to be jamming the strikeout prop at 6.5. It opens at 7.5 juice to the over. Couldn't believe it. Is what it is. He's also AK on DK. This is just absurd. You play a lot of him.
Yeah, easy click in cash games. And then for tournaments as well, even with all the ownership, I'm still overweight to him. He's my most rostered player on the entire slate by a very, very wide margin. The other player we have already kind of discussed in this pricing range, but if people missed it earlier, we've also got Hunter Green here. We had Einstein in chat bring up a very good point. What is the impact of him pitching against the same team in back-to-back games? And basically what we found is no change to the strikeout rate, the walk rate, or anything like that. Pitchers do, though, tend to give up a little bit more runs when they are facing a team in back-to-back games. So I don't think the ceiling has changed on Hunter Green at all. He's got massive strikeout upside. He's somebody to roster. I'm just really not that much different in the field, though. I have him in 35% of my lineups, Eric, and that's right where he's projected pretty much.
That's where he should be. He should be in a lot of what you do. I'm actually well north of the field for whatever it's worth, but I'm happy to make him like a 70-75% exposed player for me, and I will just get different with other pieces on the slate. He's just so undervalued on this slate at 8K. It's just ridiculous.
Oh, interesting. So you find Hunter Green at 80. What do you think?
Oh, Hunter Green. Sorry, I thought we were still talking Hunter Brown. My bad. Okay. And I love Hunter Green. He's my boy. I am actually underweight to Hunter Green right now. I have some Pittsburgh bats in my life. I have some Cincy bats in my life, but Mitch Keller's not pulling any ownership. We got Hunter Green pulling the ownership, 32.8% ownership. I have 22% of him right now.
Yeah, like I said, right around even with the field on him. I really like stacking against him in tournaments, though, especially in single entry where that ownership's going to be even higher. I think there's massive upside there. Either Hunter Green gets are going to be via strikeouts, or he doesn't today and he gets blown up, and then we see the Pittsburgh Pirates score a bunch of runs. So love playing both sides of that. If you're looking at a pitcher to pivot to in this price range, Eric, because almost all the ownership on the slate going to Hunter Green, mid 30% ownership, Hunter Brown north of 50% ownership. Is there a guy that stands out to you for lower ownership in this 8K pricing range that we could roster to get different?
Sure is. The guy that I play every single one of these slates at 30% when he's like 10, 12, 15% owned. And it's Bobby Miller at 8.3% ownership against the White Sox. He's 8,500 here. I'm going to just say it again. He has ridiculous stuff. Fastball, changeup. It is 99 on the gun. I don't understand why he doesn't get more swing and miss. The changeup has a 46.2% whiff percentage. It has a 176 slugging against, a 186 expected slugging against. It's one of the best pitches for a starter in baseball. The four-seamer has a 304 expected batting average on it, despite the fact that it's 98 miles per hour on average. I mean, I'm floored that he doesn't get more strikeouts, but it's still a pretty decent strikeout rate that he has on the season, sitting at 26%, 26.7% to be exact. And Bobby Miller gets to have this upgrade situation with Luis Robert, 35.3%. He's back in our lives here. Paul DeJong, Corey Lee. It was better when DeJong was batting cleanup. You could definitely attack the White Sox at the top of it there. Pham Benintendi now batting second. That's a bummer, but the stuff is so good that I think eventually you're going to have an 8, 9, 10 strikeout game with Bobby Miller where you just want to be overweight. And so I brought it up before the show, said that there was one pitcher that I knew I was going to have an overweight stance to. why not try to attack the White Sox in a spot like this with a young arm you like?
Yeah, that's my guy as well. I saw somebody in chat ask us about him. I have double-digit exposure to Bobby Miller. He's not expected to be popular. He's projected for 8% ownership. Dude throws really hard. He can chuck. He's inconsistent. He does have some blow-up starts. I know I rushed him last time in Coors Field. It went very
Me
poorly.
too.
But Bobby Miller, I think that there is reason to look at him as the pitcher in this price range that doesn't have ownership, that has the most upside. And it has more to do with, if you just compare him to the other pitchers that are low owned in this range, like Tyler Anderson. All right, good matchup against the Oakland A's, but Bobby Miller's way more talented than Tyler Anderson. We got Adam Mazur pitching against the Washington Nationals. Kevin Gausman, who's been crazy up and down. You can make a case for Gausman as well, but I find the matchup that Gausman has against the Red Sox to be significantly more difficult than the matchup Bobby Miller has against the White Sox. So I'll be getting myself to some Bobby Miller exposure for sure today.
I'm so there with you. Somebody said Bobby Miller 4.5. So the one thing that kept me away from betting this earlier was there was basically nothing. Like what I'm saying is that I want to kind of see some of this stuff like play out. And from a DFS perspective, I get to buy low on him. I still think 4.5, as weird as it sounds, is actually pretty efficient for him. It's up to 5.5 a couple of spots for major plus money, but it seems like all the books have kind of a consensus around it. Minus 164 at FanDuel, 4.5. You've got the 5.5, so yeah, plus 125, plus 130, kind of sitting in that range. But for me, I think that right tail really exists on Bobby Miller, where it doesn't exist on some other pitchers, partially because of the matchup here taking on the White Sox. We know that they can be horrendous. 75 WRC plus against righties on the season, dead last in baseball. That'll come up with Eloy and Luis Robert and everybody healthy now again. But 124 ISO, it feels like you can kind of have this go two ways, where he could pitch deep into this game, and he also could finally find those strikeouts there against a team that has a 23.5% K rate against righties. That's not astronomical, but it's in the top half of the league.
Yeah. Eric, your camera turned off.
Of course it did. It's a million degrees. That's really all it comes down to. We're back.
And then the man is back. So the other pitcher thing we should talk about here is Brandon Pfaadt, because he is going to be 19% owned. He is the third most popular pitcher on the slate. Yeah, we've got two pitchers. Once again, we're pulling all the ownership today, but he's also relatively popular. What are you doing with Pfaadt tonight?
I have a little bit. I have the under the game. It's not something that I'm in love with here at this point. The ownership on Pfaadt coming in. He's been a really good pitcher, but Minnesota, I mean, they are really starting to show out offensively against righties on the season, especially. That was kind of where I really thought that they would have some improvement. So many lefties. We got some guys like Wallner and stuff sitting in AAA that were up with us last season that it would be fun to see again. But Larnach, we know the power there. Correa's been hitting everybody. Royce Lewis is God. 107 WRC plus now against righties, just a 22.1% K rate. Roof closed like it always is in the summer in Arizona, but it is still a spot where Willie Castro, Max Kepler, Carlos Correa, these are all guys that are kind of like getting mixed into my lineups. I like some of the leverage going up against Pfaadt just because, you know, it's a ballpark that won't play up for power, but it can certainly play up for your doubles and moving the line along. So it's going to be probably shorting a lot of these other pitchers because of how much Brown I have. And then I'm just kind of pick and choosing a couple of spots. Miller for sure is a priority for me over Pfaadt.
Are there any punt pitchers you like? Because once we get below Brandon Pfaadt in the pricing, he is $7,800, 19% owned. No other pitchers are more than 5% owned. Kyle Gibson's 5% owned in a tough matchup against the Braves. Andrew Heaney's 5% owned in a tough matchup against the Brewers. Mitch Spence is 5% owned in an easy matchup against the Angels, but he's Mitch fucking Spence. So that's it. There are no pitchers who are even remotely popular that are punt options today. You also don't really have to go cheap at pitching because it is such a big slate. There are so many cheap one-offs that it's kind of easy to pay up a little bit more for pitching. Not to mention the two top pitchers on the slate are both in the 8K range, one of them being Hunter Brown, who we've hit on, who's 8K flat. So you don't have to spend all that much for the better pitchers on the slate. As a result, nobody's punting at pitcher. Are there any guys that stand out to you for any reason that you're looking to take chances on in tournaments?
Mitch Spence a little bit, 153 strikeouts and 163 innings pitched, a little bit worse than your 9Ks per nine. It's going to be just kind of a play against the Angels to a certain extent. Not crazy hot in Anaheim. Should be all right. It's risky. I mean, there's not really a need to have to get down this cheap. I mean, we've got some expensive bats that exist on the slate. I mean, if you want to play the Dodgers and Shohei, a number of those pieces, the Yankees are a team that I do like on this slate. Great hitting weather. It's Citibank. There are expensive bats, so I'm not saying that you absolutely have to, but considering we don't have anybody in the 10K range that's a must to go grab for strikeout upside, and we have all of these guys that are underpriced, specifically Hunter Brown, I don't really see a need to get crazy down here. Again, 6% that I have of him. I had a share of Bryce Wilson. He no longer exists. I trimmed that out. But Mitch Spence, yeah, that's the main guy sitting with 6% in my last run, 8% now.
Yeah, so for me, it's Andrew Heaney, and it's kind of normally Andrew Heaney for me when he's really low owned. He's just somebody who I like. I like the variance of. I like the strikeout upside. I know he hasn't had quite the same strikeout rate this season, but still, for his price point, a 23% K rate is certainly not terrible. And he also got off to a really rough start to the season. So if you look at the numbers for Andrew Heaney past the first month, he has been markedly improved, which also makes me think that, maybe he had a poor spring training or something like that, or just something was off at the start of the year. Because if you do look at him in the month of June, his strikeout rate is back up to 27.5% for the month. He's a 3.46 FIP, a 3.13 xFIP. The problem is the matchup against the Brewers. It's absolutely terrible. Gary Sanchez was just scratched because that's just what happens with baseball these days. Always the scratches. But that doesn't really tremendously change the matchup at all. Like a little bit easier for Andrew Heaney. But I think that he's somebody who has a little bit more upside than people realize. Not that I want to go crazy with him, but with him being 5% on, I'm cool with having like 10% of Andrew Heaney.
I'm just fine with that. If you want him to be your guy down there, awesome. I think what you're doing is you're just trying to find some sort of upside or somebody who can find success. If you have a path for success for Heaney, it's the strikeouts. For me with Spence, I think it's going to be a little bit more run prevention where, maybe Hunter Brown has 6-7 strikeouts or somebody else, and a couple of those lineups that I don't have him in potentially might have access to a couple of bats that somebody with Hunter Brown can't have. But again, he's 8K Hunter Brown. I'm overweight to the field. Don't want to say that that's some kind of a priority in my 150 because it's not.
Anything else you want to talk about pitching on DraftKings?
No, I mean, the Mitch Keller one I'm going to do to some extent. I'm not sure what that extent is going to be here in the next couple minutes. Mackenzie Gore, I think the spot has really, really improved for him. His swinging strike rate is starting to get way up there to like elite ace caliber stuff. I really like Mackenzie Gore. I was looking at Hunter Green at the same time, but where is my Mackenzie Gore? I've got double-digit Mackenzie Gore. This is just somebody at 28.2% K rate. You take Fernando Tatis out of that lineup. You add Bryce Johnson, who was absolutely raking there at AAA, but always remember the PCL. Most people are going to be raking that get called up into some of these spots. So Bryce Johnson batting ninth, a gigantic downgrade. Nobody really strikes out in this San Diego lineup outside of Johnson and Higashioka, and they're batting 8th and 9th. But Mackenzie Gore's stuff is just so good that I'm going to take a couple of shots in that mid 8K range. Don't really think I have anything else that I wanted to touch on, though.
All right, so let's talk about the FanDuel pitchers, which are obviously the same pitchers as over on DraftKings. One thing that is different on FanDuel, Hunter Brown is $9,200 as opposed to 8K. Despite that, he's 28.8% owned on a single pitcher site. So comparably, he is about as owned on FanDuel as he is on DraftKings. He's the very, very clear and obvious cash game play on FanDuel. But Eric, if you're building one GPP lineup on FanDuel, is Hunter Brown your pitcher, or would you be looking in a different direction?
I would be looking at a different direction than Hunter Brown on a one pitcher site today. Again, he is the guy with the highest projection that I have on both sites. He is the highest at the site here today on both sites. He is definitely somebody that if you're going to get contrarian with bats, there's probably no need to go to Hunter Brown there. And there's a 3 strikeout disparity between Hunter Brown to Bobby Miller. So the pivot isn't necessarily remotely close to a 1-for-1 like on DraftKings where you can play 2 pitchers and I don't have to like omit one. But just for the sake of flipping lineup construction and trying to go super cheap, I think that there's a case to be made for Mitch Spence there. I already talked about the Angels with some of the strikeouts that exist after those first 2 in Schnell and Renifo, who do not strike out. 3 through 9, everybody's pretty pronounced there up against righties. I think Mitch Spence probably an all right spot for me to take some shots at 7,400, but that is just purely to get all of the top offenses on the slate. Everybody does pale in comparison to Hunter Brown, though. So again, if you are looking for security and upside, Hunter Brown is your guy, even at 9,200 on FanDuel.
Yeah, I mean, Hunter Brown, $9,200. If I'm trying, he's the guy for me. If I'm building one lineup right now, I would still just eat the chalk on Hunter Brown. If I was going to deviate off of him for FanDuel purposes, I would go Seth Lugo. Just the fact that he has that matchup at home against the Miami Marlins. He's only 3% owned. The win bonus, the quality start bonus, those things hold a little bit more weight on FanDuel. I would say Seth Lugo as a potential pivot off of Hunter Brown for low ownership, but it's not something I feel all that strong about. I really would just be on Hunter Brown.
That is just fine. I think there's no problem at all with going that direction. Again, it's going to just depend on what stacks you're going to throw together. If you want to play some of the chalkier spots, it's kind of like yesterday, where I think a lot of the DK and FanDuel chalk are mirroring one another. You can play your Dodgers, you can get up to your Ohtani, and a little bit easier to do with like a Mitch Spence. Again, I would be looking at like really getting extreme away from Hunter Brown's price range. Because again, let's say he goes for 6, 7 strikeouts and Spence goes for 4 or 5, which is well within the range of outcomes here for both of those individuals. You're flipping the entire build and you have an opportunity to get to both of those top offenses. So for FanDuel purposes, probably with you now that we're talking through it for one lineup, probably would just eat the chalk and get different at offense. But for a couple of lineups, Mitch Spence is kind of the guy that I'd be looking at to get way away from that price range.
Anything else you want to add about the pitchers on the FanDuel side of things?
No.
All right, so let's build some lineups in the lineup generator. While we're doing it, want to fill you guys in on something. Over the weekend, PGA DFS, we had a sub, Kevin Roach, won the Sand Trap. I forget whether it was the $20 or $25 buy-in. It's different week to week. I think it was $25 this week. Kevin Roach only played 10 lineups, Stochastic Sim sub, came in first place, $200,000. So we turned $25 into $200K over the weekend. And to celebrate it, we're doing a promotion. So if you guys are looking to sign up for our PGA package, you can sign up for any Sims package using the promo code 200K to celebrate the 200K win. Or if you just want to click on the link below in the YouTube description box, the promo code's already loaded in. You get yourself 20% off any of our PGA Sim subscription. And that is going to be good until Thursday when the slate locks. So if you're looking to get in on PGA DFS, I also had a good PGA week. Not quite as good as Kevin Roach did. Came in first place, won $200,000. Go sign up using the link that we have below. I also did a recap video on the YouTube channel, breaking down the golfers he played, the lineups, and some stuff I noticed about it. So if that's of interest to you, it's like a 10-minute video that I put up earlier. But yeah, if you're looking to check out our PGA package, now's the time. Sign up, get yourself 20% off any package. You want to sign up for a month, you can get 20% off. You want to sign up for a week, get yourself 20% off for that as well. All right. What's the Sotex wants to know, can we get any better with the thumbnail picks? Which thumbnail picks? Which ones don't you like?
Why don't you like the picks?
That's what's wrong with it. Looks like we got Tom Kim doing a little bit of Hawk Tua there. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. God, spit on that thing.
What's wrong with that? Nothing.
You hear me?
Issues there. No issues there. Let's build some lineups here in the MLB lineup generator and see what it is that pops up. Let's go. Because this slate is so big, let's go with chalky lineups and just see what ends up popping up. I know it's going to be a shit ton of Hunter Brown. I don't care, though. I'm totally cool with Hunter Brown being a bunch of lineups. I assume building chalky lineups, he'll probably be in all of them, but I want to see what ends up showing up elsewhere outside of him. All right. Yeah, Hunter Brown in 100% of lineups. That is not at all surprising to me. Hunter Green is in half of our lineups here. And then you see the chalky stack that we're getting the most of here. It actually isn't the Los Angeles Dodgers, even though they are the most popular team on the slate. The stack we are getting to there, it's the Kansas City Royals. The Royals popping up everywhere there for us. So that is definitely something that is of interest to me.
Are the Royals really going to be sneaky after yesterday? Are they really going to be sneaky? Because we've got them with the second highest top stack percentage. We've got pretty flat ownership share going up against them. Not quite fully leveraged, but like they're up there. I like the Kansas City Royals more than the Dodgers straight up. And I'm just surprised that the field doesn't feel that way.
I mean, it's just because it's such a big slate. That's one of the reasons why, too,
Yeah.
I wanted to build chalky lineups and see what ended up popping up, just to see, like, what does our projections in Sims just like the most, like which spots actually project the best when the ownership is so spread out. And, yeah, like we are still getting the Dodgers stacks here, but our data showing that the Kansas City Royals are a team to be getting to against Yanni Chirinos. And I do think that the Royals make sense as a stack to be getting to. They are, let's see. In my lineups, I have the Royals in, yeah, I've got 9% Royal stack. So I'm a little bit overweight to the field. But yeah, I think it's a pretty good spot to be getting to. It's not necessarily my favorite overall stack on the slate, but I do think it's one to be getting to be overweight to. But the other side of this, Eric, if you're building one lineup for a single entry, would you be going to the Royals or would you be going somewhere else? Keeping in mind, I really don't think ownership is going to be all that much of a concern.
No, I don't think it is either, but I think Pittsburgh's probably the team that I would be going to today for single entry. I'm not playing single entry today. It is my guy, Hunter Green, on the mound. So, this is one of those things where, the gun is into my head here. I don't have to necessarily pick it the same way that I would if I were playing single entry. But boy, oh boy, Mitch Keller and Hunter Green, I think they both have upside, but they are both very attackable. We are looking at Great American Small Park playing extra, extra small, wind blowing out 10 to 12 miles per hour to left field, 89 degrees at first pitch, 60% humidity. I don't see any way around it. Like, this is like a both sides are for me. We're in large field. I'm going to have my Hunter Green. I'm still going to be well overweight to Pittsburgh, but I think Pittsburgh for single entry. I know this is a team that you brought up. I can't remember which day it was. It's
yesterday.
One of the last. Yeah, was it yesterday that you played single entry for him? I like Pittsburgh today. I did not like them yesterday.
Yeah, it went, not that like I won the single entry contest or anything, but I cashed, doubled my money in single entry yesterday with the Pittsburgh Pirates, courtesy of the home run pick yesterday, dong of the day, O'Neal Cruz hitting a moonshot for me to secure a min cash there in single entry contest. But that's the team I want to go to today as well. Just a lot of variance with Hunter Green. I don't have that much to say different than what you had mentioned before. I also think single entry, Hunter Brown's going to be super popular. Hunter Green's also going to be super popular. Then the ownership's kind of going to be spread out beyond that. And you got yourself on such a different build. If you play the Pirates in single entry today and they go and score 4, 5, 6 runs against Hunter Green, you could basically guarantee that you're at least doubling your money for the day.
Correct.
So that's definitely a spot that I like getting to. We did get a super chat here from Zach to the Future. He wants to know low-owned GPP pitchers. Yeah, so the two ones that I like the most for low ownership were Bobby Miller and Andrew Heaney. If you had to identify a couple for low ownership, Eric, would it be Bobby Miller and Mitch Spence for you based on what you said before, or somebody else you would answer for this?
Probably Bobby Miller, Mitch Spence. Mackenzie Gore actually pulling around 14-15% ownership, so can't go that direction. Good God almighty, Gunnar Henderson home run already. Oh, boy. Right in the middle. One of the only guys that I didn't bet on Baltimore. I bet like everybody on Baltimore to hit a home run except for Gunnar Henderson, Colton Cowser, and somebody else. I bet everybody else, but way to go, Gunnar. Way to go, bud.
That looks like not a great pitch, just pulling up the MLB Gamecast. That is a 91-mile-per-hour fastball right down the fucking dick, and I assume he hammered it.
And they put him clean up against lefties because they're a smart analytical franchise who understand the utility of putting the lefty up there for ex-Woba purposes to lead off. And then they understand, let's put the guy with power who doesn't hit as well against lefties, but when he gets 91 down the middle, takes an exit velo of 106.9 miles per hour to deep, deep. Oh, my God. Like, what a beanball that was. Good Lord.
Line drive homer for Gunnar Henderson.
Mountcastle hit 110 mile per hour single already. That's tilting too. 480 expected batting average.
Let's get back to,
okay.
Let's see. Were there any other questions or super chats? No, we are We are all good on that. Let's go back to the player exposures, Jordan. I want to see. So obviously we have 100% Hunter Brown. We had 50. Is that 50? Oh, 81% of Hunter Green. Okay. So basically no other pitchers are going to be showing up here. We do have a lot of the Royals. Shohei Ohtani as a one-off. Scroll down. I just want to see what hitters outside of the Royals and Ohtani we're getting to. Jazz Chisholm's there. I'm seeing Will Smith, Yanier Diaz, who's always a good catching option. So, yeah. Nothing that looks too crazy. I like these lineups. Anything else that stands out to you?
Yeah, we got quite a bit of Houston from what it looks like. Yes. Yanner Diaz, I saw there, Chas McCormick, Jose Altuve. Yeah, it never really sucks. I will say this. Have you noticed how much over for home runs Minute Maid Park is playing this season relative to the last two? Because in the 3-year average, if you remove it off of Baseball Savant, Minute Maid Park is playing well above normal for home runs to anybody who plays there with any type of routine basis. If you look at Baseball Savant for this year and take off the 3-year rolling average, Minute Maid Park is like top 5 in baseball across the board, top 3 in baseball across the board.
I had not noticed that. So that is information that is currently new to me, but related to home runs. We get a super chat from Malcolm Revamp who says, Eric, any more homer bets tonight?
Yes. Brent Rooker plus 350 on FanDuel.com. Bet it.
Jordan was, let me see. What is Jordan now? I had Jordan plus 300 earlier. There's number, is his prop the same, worse, or better?
Gonna treat this chick mo better.
Jordan is now plus 285, not the plus 300 number from earlier, but I do think Jordan is one of, I mean, he's Jordan Alvarez. He's one of the more likely players to homer on the slate. Clearly don't like the plus 285 as much as the plus 300, but I still think it is playable there. Jacob Dunn has left us a super chat. He says, 2-player homer from the, so he wants a same game. Okay, so Jacob Dunn's looking for a couple of things. He wants an NBA draft bet. I cannot help you with that. Maybe Eric can. I don't know anything about the NBA draft this year.
Yep, I have one that I sent to my buddy that I was like, we have to get this immediately down. I will pull it up because it was a really, really sharp thing by me, and I don't even remember the guy's name. So I might be a dipshit now that I'm explaining it that way, but there were 2 things that I wanted to bet on the NBA draft. I don't remember one. I thought the other one was Denver Nuggets to draft Bronny James was like 75 to 1 or something like that. I thought about it, didn't end up pulling the trigger on it. But, oh God, let me find this. You're going to like it once I pull it up here, Greg. It was somebody to specifically go 9. So there's a guy in the draft whose dad is the Memphis he's like an assistant coach for Memphis or works underneath the front office for Memphis. And it's very similar to what we saw for Mikal Bridges, where it was like somebody within the organization, and Philadelphia drafted Mikal Bridges before trading his draft rights to Phoenix. There has been line movement for it. I'll find it here before the end of the show.
The other part of this question was 2 players to homer from the same game. Where would we go?
Brent Rooker saying Langoliers.
Yanier Diaz and Jordan Alvarez.
There you go. I'll go Langoliers and Rooker both plus 350.
All right. So there's a couple of options you can go with a same game homer parlay. Let's build some FanDuel lineups in the lineup generator here, Jordan. Then Eric and I will hit on the rest of the stacks we like for the day. Then it'll be time for, I mean, we've already done a lot of home run picks. I don't know how many more home run picks we could do than like the like 5 or whatever we've done so far.
No, never apologize for more home run picks, because then our odds of getting one goes exponentially up.
That is true. That is true. People in the chat, just more dongs, more dongs. Don't worry, we got you guys. Let's do same deal for FanDuel. Let's go chalky lineups. I'm curious to see what ends up popping up. I also want to see, do we get to 100% Hunter Brown over here? Or do some other pitchers make their way into a single pitcher site like FanDuel if we're building chalky lineups? And 89% of Hunter Brown. So pretty close to all of our lineups having him. Once again, at offense, a ton of the Kansas City Royals. Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, Michael Massey, Maikel Garcia. Then we're starting to see Shohei Ohtani. So a Dodgers bat there. But then Salvador Perez, MJ Melendez, Hunter Renfroe. So once again, on FanDuel, the best overall looking stack, it is the Kansas City Royals in the lineup generator. And if you guys want to sign up, there's also a link below in the YouTube description box, less than $15. But our stacks super heavy towards the Kansas City Royals. They're somewhat more popular on FanDuel, not problematically so, 11% owned. What is, can you click on the stack exposures there, Jordan? Yeah, so we have some form of Royals, whether it's 2, 3, 4 of them in almost all of our FanDuel lineups, then some Marlins, some Dodgers, some Toronto Blue Jays. If you're stacking one team on FanDuel, Eric, what direction would you go to over there where we don't quite have the same leverage against a Hunter Green?
Yeah, it's still Kansas City. It's still going to be Kansas City up against Yonny Chirinos. North of a 6.2 expected ERA last season. We had one start. He looked good for one start. That doesn't mean anything to me. I am definitely looking at the Kansas City Royals as the best over on FanDuel. They would be my 4-man for sure.
Yeah, I like the Kansas City Royals quite a bit today as well on both sides. So I'll agree with you there, and a clear lineup generally liking them a whole bunch as well. Anything else you want to mention about the pitcher stack exposures here?
I think it looks fantastic. I like just jamming Kansas City in tournaments if they're going to be this low owned. I'm a little bit surprised considering they were chalk yesterday and everything looks the same. The only thing that's different is the Dodgers now get to go up against Flexen instead of Garrett Crochet. And I totally get that, but like this is a pretty drastic move towards the Dodgers.
Are there any really low-owned teams you're getting to in your lineups for today? We talked about the leverage on the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they're going to be, you know, somewhat contrarian with leverage. They're 4% owned. Are there any teams even lower owned than that are making your way into lineups in any kind of meaningful way?
The Washington Nationals going up against Adam Mazur, the #1 ballpark in baseball, 4 home runs in the year of our Lord. 2024 has been Petco Park. I don't understand it. I think it has more to do with the fact that we have seen the weather warmer in San Diego relative to some other places in America at the moment. But you go to Baseball Savant and it is just staring at you. #1 for homers on DraftKings. I care about homers. I am playing so much CJ Abrams, Lane Thomas, Jesse Winker, Joey Meneses, Eddie Rosario, Kyber Ruiz, and Luis Garcia. It makes me sick.
It's not necessarily like a super low owned team. There's 7% ownership going to the Marlins, but this team is so cheap on DraftKings that they make for great players to use to save some salary with. So I'm looking at some of my most rostered hitters and guys like Jazz Chisholm, Jake Berger, Brian De La Cruz. These are guys who are showing up in like 20% of my lineups as one-offs. I really like the value we're getting on the Miami Marlins. If you look at the entire lineup, let me see. I'll read off the prices here. All right. So here's what we have for hitter prices on the Marlins. Jazz Chisholm, who is a legitimately really good fantasy player, he's $4,200. He is the only player in the entire lineup who's more expensive than $3,600. If you roster any of these guys and they get like an extra base hit, score, run, you're getting really good value there. I think this is the best value stack on the entire slate, and our top stacks really bears that. We have the 15% chance, Eric, on a 12-game slate to be the top value stack.
Let's party. I'm happy to get a little bit in my life.
Yeah, and
Miami, Miami's popping on the Sims quite a bit.
It's just the value.
Well, and it's not just a value. It has everything to do with the game environment, too. You give me 90, 50% humidity against just about anybody, especially Seth Lugo, who is probably the most overpriced pitcher on this entire slate. Yeah, I'm probably going to do that. So Miami, I've got 8% of them, so I'm here with you.
What are you doing with the Dodgers as the chalkiest team on the slate?
I'm underweight. I think individual batters, just fine. I'm going to play Shohei Ohtani because it's freaking Shohei Ohtani. He's my second highest owned batter. But I am not playing them as a full 5-man a lot of these places. Chris Flexen has had some improved stuff. I do think, the Dodgers probably win this game. They probably put up a couple of runs on him, but it is hard for me to want to get to where the field is on them.
I'm right around the field. I have 11%. Yeah, I'm actually right at the field. I have 11% Dodger stacks. Here are all the teams that I either have double-digit exposure to or at least am close to double-digit exposure. It is the Kansas City Royals, the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Miami Marlins, and the team I have the most exposure to overall, the Pittsburgh Pirates. Those are the 4 teams that I have in 10% or more of my lineups. The Royals, I kind of made the Royals are 9.3% of my lineup, so just added them to make a little bit of an exception there. Those are like the 4 core stacks for me today. Are there any other teams you would add to that as being a core stack for you, or a team you haven't mentioned yet?
A core stack, probably not. I think I kind of gave you all the goods. I mean, what more could you be looking for than the Washington Nationals against San Diego? But Adam Mazur is so terrible. His walk rate exponentially exceeds his K rate. He's got just a north of a 70 ERA. He's been just dog shit. And Milwaukee had a massive implied total against him. I'm a little surprised that Washington doesn't have a higher implied total against Mazur here. Part of that might have been that it was an afternoon game, I think on a Saturday when Mazur started, if I remember correctly. But it is what it is. I am playing Washington and it feels gross.
Anything else you want to bring up as far as stacks go?
No, I think we did a pretty good job of summarizing. Do you have anybody else?
No, I outlined the core ones for me. You know, on a slate that's 12 games, there's always going to be additional teams that show up in like 2, 3, 4% of lineups, but not anything that I think that you guys need to be playing for most of our viewers that are playing 1, 2, 3 lineups. So I don't just want to mention like every team that I have the most minimal amount of exposure to.
That is a great thing to do. Thanks for being a friend.
All right, so let's do our home run picks for the day. And people in show, never mind. We got a question from Ryan Stein, and he wants to know, what are we doing with the Atlanta Braves tonight?
What are we doing with the Atlanta Braves? I am underweight to them. I have 2%.
Yeah, I have. This is like the kind of thing that I was just going on before, where, yeah, I have out of my 150 lineups, 2 of them are Brave stacks. So
yep, it's not going to happen for me.
Not a spot that I'm going to be advocating for here. Not that they're unplayable or anything, but yeah, not really a spot that I'm digging for this particular slate. So Dong picks, Eric. Let's try to narrow it down, because we've a lot of people have been asked for home run bets. If you're picking one guy to homer today, which direction are you going?
If I had to pick one guy, Shohei Ohtani, but we're not going to do that because I'm not Jordan Klein, and I'm not just going to be throwing out something ridiculous there for the people that has no thought or intention. But Tyler Anderson was the one pitcher we didn't really talk about, and there's a reason for it. He has like a 225 BABIP despite being like a 280 BABIP guy, 289 BABIP guy for his entire career. Negative regression is coming for him sooner rather than later against lefties. His expected ISO is way up there. You know who else has a massive expected ISO going up against left-handed pitching? Wouldn't you know it? It is Brent Rooker. Give me him, plus 350, also a guy that I really like as a contrarian piece. These Athletics, they get after Tyler Anderson. Give me that leverage.
Yordan Alvarez for me. That's going to be the official home run pick of the night. Yordan Alvarez. From the chat, we've got Charles Kelly, who's going with 2 homers. He's going with Jared Kelenic as well as Alex Bregman. Blake Moore also going with Alex Bregman. Thomas Rensberger is going with Alex Bregman. First 3 people who posted in chat, they've all got Alex Bregman in there. I'm curious to see what Jordan Klein decides to go with today. Michael Roundtree, he's got CJ Abrams. Kid Kobe's going with Royce Lewis. Sotex has got Matt Olson. Ryan Rennebaum, he's on your side here, Eric. He's going with Brent Rooker. Casey Leatherwood's got Matt Olson as well as William Contreras. Ryan Rennebaum also throwing Shea Langoliers in here in addition to the Brent Rooker. So both of your guys here.
Love it.
Ricardo Nelson. Ricardo, where did it go? The chat just moved. Where'd it go? All right, I'm just gonna have to pick up somewhere else because the chat moved on me, and then I lost the ones I was looking at. Francisco Rubio has Heimer Candelario. Malucar has Ellie De La Cruz. Game On, Let's Go as CJ Abrams. We got Doug Dobbs going with Bobby Witt Jr. Okizi Adim Madumir has got Josh Smith. Almost Made has got Nolan Arenado. Andy Melman is going with Ha-Sung Kim. We've got Timothy Lee going with Lopper Fido. We've got Swaggy Pete. He's saying Big Dick McCormick is going yard. Mike Campbell is going with Aaron Judge. The boy from Cali's got Josh Bell. We've got JB Hughes. Fuck, it's another one that moved right there. Close us out here, Jordan. Jordan's going with Corbin Carroll. I'll have to look at where he's from because there might be something I wasn't aware of there. So closing it out here, Corbin Carroll from the one, Jordan David Klein. Guys, thank you very much for watching. If you've not done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're going to be playing PGA DFS this weekend, sign up using the link we have below in the description box. Get yourself 20% off when you sign up with the promo code 200K to celebrate our Sim sub who ended up winning $200,000 playing PGA DFS over the weekend. Other than that, thank you guys very much for watching. Have a great night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.